I would say call it the three C's to make it easy, to understand and to assimilate. So one, element which was very useful for me and in Unilever and outside later was curiosity. You have to be curious about, the business that you are in. Kya business hai? What are the, signs in that business? Just dive deep into it. At that time, it was difficult. There was no internet. So you really had to, drill, to get knowledge. But I think that was really very, very helpful for me. Second is, customer centricity. Everybody has a customer. I work for a purpose. What's my purpose? I have to ask myself, look, why am I here? Who is my
Yeah.
customer? Who am I serving here? And I think
Yes.
that then, helps me understand as to how then I can delight that customer. And I think the other one which comes naturally to finance people is that challenge process. So I call it a constructive challenge. I've been through that process and I feel that finance will really need to understand that. And I've understood it, saying that, look, people have different views on the table. And how do I make my point of view in a manner that doesn't shoot down somebody else's idea ki ye bekar hai, but how do I align that person to a converged argument or a thinking or a way forward?
Hi everyone. Welcome to the Pursuit of Finance Story Beyond Number podcast, where I, along with my co-host Tripti, we will take you through the world of finance. We will go deeper into the experience and lives of the people who have successfully navigated the financial landscape. We will learn from the best in the industries, from the people who have done it all. We will learn much more beyond what we learn in the textbooks from the real life stories. Today, I'm super excited to welcome Mr. Sanjay Bahl on board with us. He is the co founder and CEO of StarLeaf Talent Solutions, and he is a chartered accountant himself and has more than 30 years of experience working in marquee organizations Raymond, Unilever, Landmark, and Saint-Gobain. He has been CFO for more than 15 years himself in the previous organization. And I personally know Sanjay from many years, and every conversation with him has inspired me. And I hope that in this particular episode, every one of us will have an inspiration to take away. Hello and welcome on board with us, Sanjay ji.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. Always good to talk to you.
Sure. Thank you so much. So first question for you, what's your story? What made you to join finance or to take CA career?
Well, at that time, when I go back to the 1980s, is when I graduated. Uh, the options for career choices were limited, and uh, so I clearly knew that I didn't want to do science and pursue a career in science. Though I was in the top three in my
Hmm.
class, and in my
Wow.
class, the top 25 were all doing science, and
Hmm.
I was only one who actually opted out. And I said, look, this is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to pursue a career. I liked
Hmm.
economics, and I said, look, I want to do something about business and commerce. That's why I got
Hmm.
into then commerce, and chartered accountancy was really a result of influence and inspiration from my elder brother, who was also pursuing a chartered accountant's course. And I saw him doing articleship and pretty glamorous at that time, flying around different parts of the country doing audits. And I said, this is a great life here. Let me try and get into it. And so that is really what got me going here.
That is very nice. So Sanjay ji, you have an amazing career journey. Matlab, I have not seen many finance professionals who have become an CFO and then started their own company on the talent side of it. So you have been successful, so much successful in your career. For you, what are the top three skills like which are instrumental? सबसे important आप skills बताइए जो आपको लगता है best आपके लिए work की है in last 30 plus years of your career.
Yeah, I think there are many learnings that are there. But if I was to choose and say, ki, look, ye teen, top three, as you say, I would say call it the three C's to make it easy,
Hmm.
to understand and to assimilate. One of the C's is curiosity. The first most important thing. I worked in very diverse businesses. Within Unilever also, I worked in businesses like fertilizer and then edible oils and beverages. It's a very diverse set of
Wow.
businesses. So one, element which was very useful for me and in Unilever and outside later was curiosity. You have to be
Hmm.
curious about, the business that you are in. क्या business है? What are the, science in that business? If it is fertilizer,
Hmm.
science क्या है? What is a fertilizer? How is it made? And just dive deep into it. At that time, it was difficult. There was no internet, so you really had to, drill, to get knowledge. But I think that was really very, very helpful for me. And then one
Okay.
one time, I remember in Saint-Gobain, I got so deep into the chemistry of it because it was relevant, because all the manufacturing process
Hmm.
inefficiencies are related to it. That, somebody asked me that, sorry, which part of the which function are you working? And I said, look, yeah, I'm in finance here. So he was pretty shocked here. यार ये chemistry की बात कर रहा है,
Hmm.
so that is one. Curiosity, I feel, is very important. Second is, customer centricity. And I feel that, how does a finance person relate to, and customers here is really, everybody has a customer. When I work in the finance function, I work for a purpose. That's the reason why I'm there, and it is, in every role I've seen that play out. What's my purpose? I have
Hmm.
to ask myself, look, why am I here? Who is my
Yeah.
customer? Who am I serving here? And I think
Yes.
that then, helps me understand as to how then I can delight that customer. So I
Hmm.
think that is, worked both ways, where I try and, make a difference, and I also try and see as to how, I can achieve the purpose for which
Hmm.
I'm there. And it goes beyond the JD or KRAs, etc. and all. Is to really understand the
Absolutely.
bigger picture here as to how can I make a difference here. So that's
Hmm.
important for me. And I think the other one which comes very naturally to finance people is that challenge process. So I call it a constructive challenge, and saying how can I sort of create a balance of discussion where I'm able to get my point of view across. I may have a very diametrically opposite point of view, but how do I
Hmm.
see it? And that's a learning that I felt that I've been through that process. And I feel that finance, people really need to understand that. And I've understood it, saying that, look, people
Hmm.
have different views on the table. Uh, and how do I make my point of view in a manner that doesn't shoot down somebody else's idea ki ye bekar hai, but
Hmm.
how do I align that person to a converged, argument or a thinking or a way forward here? I think these are my three C's, which I feel are, very, very important and have helped me in good stead in every role that I've sort of done here.
Yeah, actually, it is such an amazing framework you said, like 3C, being curious about things, being, customer focused. And in case customers can be internal customers or our external customers. And third is a constructive challenge. I really like the word challenge, but in a constructive way. So
100.
these 3Cs are absolutely wonderful skills which you have shared with us. Thank you so much, Sanjay ji. It's a fun question for you now. If you have any superpower skill, like which you can
Hmm.
create anything, what would you choose which will take your career to the even further next levels?
Well, Nidhi, देखो, there is no magic bullet here. As recently as what Federer said, देखो, effortless
Mhm.
is not easy. There's a lot of work which
Mhm.
goes behind making it effortless. So magic bullet नहीं है, but what if I can see what will make a huge difference to a professional, right? And
Mhm.
is attitude here. Attitude, I think, is the superpower here. People have technical knowledge, people have functional knowledge, सब कुछ है. You've passed a CA exam, you are an expert in IFRS accounting and all that. But what matters is your attitude, is your approach to
Mhm.
uh, solving issues, is the energy that you bring to the table. For your approach towards your peers, to are you the person who always says
Mhm.
no, saying cannot happen, or are you the person who says that, look, I will find the way here? Are you the person who sort of says that, look, I have a certain
Mhm.
brand image of myself, and I will stick to it. Is to create your own brand value. And I'm saying, if I am Sanjay, and I this is are three things I stand for, then I walk that talk, yeah, and I deliver that.
Hmm.
Commitment hai to commitment hai, ho jayega. I am not the guy who makes excuses, right? So I think
Hmm.
attitude is what really drives all of that. And I think that's the superpower, that's the magic bullet. If people, and it's a differentiator. You can identify a person with great positive attitude versus somebody who really needs to cultivate that. So that's my bullet here, which I would want
No,
other.
it is actually नहीं, it's very amazing point. In fact, आपने जब अपने LinkedIn पे post किया था ना on the Roger, I saw that and I really got inspired. I think the point, the learning which you noted, it is one goal at a time, one point at a time. So if we have a positive attitude, and then every complicated problem, if we solve with one point at a time or 1 inch at a time, then it will be solved. So attitude is an amazing superpower, and it every day it can help us. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. So संजय जी, मूविंग ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, नेक्स्ट इन लाइन, आप अपनी अगर लाइफ को रिफ्लेक्ट अपॉन करें, what could be one or two life changing situations or experiences which really shape the way what you think, how you pursue your career or your life? Is there anything which you would want to share with the listeners?
So I think this whole, after I did CA, and I think the big life
Hmm.
changing for me was really joining, HUL. So,
Hmm.
how the experience of getting onboarded onto HUL, and then the 14 years, that I spent there, I think was defined my life, not only in those 14 years, but well beyond, and even now. And I think
Hmm.
it's that experience of being very young and being thrown into the deep
Hmm.
pond, I would say, and learning how to take responsibility at a very young age. uh, on and sometimes in businesses where I knew nothing about. Yeah, I remember this case
Hmm.
story about, I was in a I joined as a commercial manager in one of my stints as
Hmm.
an oil buyer, and I had absolutely
Okay.
no clue about what oil buying was here. And
Hmm.
I had just about 3 days to take over, and then I was the leader of the function, and I had many customers, so who were
Wow.
looking up to me. Didn't care whether you are 3 days old. I mean, at the end of it, results was what they were looking
Hmm.
for. So that's what teaches you, in terms of, that is an
Hmm.
experience that today, if I'm put into a situation where I know nothing about, I'm not unnerved, and I don't tell
Hmm.
myself that, look, मेरे को तो कुछ पता नहीं, I'm a novice. But so mentally,
Yeah.
I'm conditioned to believe that I can do it. I've done
Hmm.
it before. I am in a new situation. I can take care of myself. I can take care of others. I can lead. And that's what the confidence that it instills in you. Yeah. And I think that's the experience which has remained sort of with me, for till now as well. Yeah.
No, I think I share what, and I can relate to this. The experiences, which is, life changing for you, like doing so many new assignments every 2 years, right? Teaches you being resilient, being confident. Very good answer. And this is, I think, a learning for all of us, that if we are resilient and if we believe, then we can do anything. We can achieve anything with that approach.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
mindset. Nidhi, it's a mindset as well, because later on I've
hmm.
come across people who, with far more experience, they put into a new role. Somebody goes into a treasury role,
Hmm.
and he tells me, sir, how can I do it? I don't know. I don't know anything about treasury. How can I lead the function? And then I said, look, it's the mindset. First, in your mind, you have to believe. Learning it,
Hmm.
the learning curve is not going to be very steep here. But if your mindset, you
Hmm.
believe that you can do it, and condition your mind, is the first step you need to take. If you believe you're a novice, then you will remain a novice, and you expect someone to then come
Hmm.
and handhold you and teach you. Then that's not going to
Hmm.
happen. And I think that's the difference, that I would say, someone needs to think about, and then look in the careers. And sometimes, this is also prevents people from changing roles, right, and taking on new roles, because they feel, look, I don't know anything about it, and I'm now too old to learn sometimes. So So it's a deterrent to people actually taking on new challenges.
So whenever you have done more than I think 10 to 15 roles, so whenever you have changed roles in the past, like what were always your consideration कि next role में क्या कैसे choose करें? Options हमेशा होते हैं. So
Yeah.
which is the best option, or even the companies and industries. So you have worked across various industries. It's like either it is retail, FMCG, of course you are master. Then even I think infrastructure, some chemicals. So various industries, various roles, all geographies, how you were taking decisions about joining those.
Yeah, so there's one career advice that I got very early on in my career was that Sanjay, look, one thing you don't do is to, in your role is, don't try and chase money.
Mhm.
Saying that that's how people change jobs, right? Because you feel that
Mhm.
you get, an extra 20, thirty
Mhm.
percent and you'll get short term, more money in your
Mhm.
hand. You said chase experiences, chase diversity of
Mhm.
experience, because each experience, and it could be just moving to a new location, could be a
Mhm.
moving to a new business within the same location, whatever it is. He says every new experience will be a great teacher. You will learn phenomenally from that experience here. So try and go for as diverse an experience
Mhm.
as you can in during your career, and that will really prepare yourself for you know an exponential value later on. Money, success, etc., all that will follow, but equip yourself
Mhm.
with a good diversity of experiences. And I think that's what sort of I've tried to do as well. And I've gone from very
Mhm.
different experiences, and each one has been a challenge. Every time you have to drill down, you have to learn, you have to come on top of it, and then you feel that, look, you've done, you achieved something, and then you move on to another
Mhm.
experience. And I think that's what has been the guiding force for me. And I think the experiences that I've got in working in HUL, and then in a very
Mhm.
different business in construction products, and then retail, and then
Mhm.
fertilizers, and then a conglomerate. I think the experience is really, there are dots which connect all these businesses fundamentally. That's
Mhm.
what you also learn. And I think at the end of it, the business principles remain the same, but you have to
Mhm.
unlock your learning cells, and I think that's
Mhm.
what then you gain, and you are able to leverage your knowledge and help others as well.
That's actually very inspiring. Like sometimes we're scared to try new things. I think with your experience that you have done so many industry roles, so many type of roles, that's why it will encourage people to take on trying on new things and gaining experiences. I think
Yeah.
that's the point that you mentioned, rather
Yeah.
than just chasing the money part of it. The money
Now
will
I've seen that
follow.
happen. I've seen that happen, Nidhi, and I've seen also people saying, I don't want to go into factory finance, for example. A lot of professionals I come with, "नहीं, factory नहीं करना मेरे को." And I said, look, yeah, I mean, you're missing out on such a great experience here. The experience of working in an environment of a manufacturing
Mm-hmm.
unit is such a great teacher. It's not about you won't do that for life, but if you gain that
Mm-hmm.
experience, I mean, it will enrich you for a long, long time. Yeah. And you will be able to leverage the knowledge that you gain out of that. It is about people skills. It is about interacting in a very different environment. And so I think those are the things that you need to sort of pursue and equip yourself for future leadership roles. I think this is where it will come in very, very beneficial. So, that's the attitude that I really want people to sort of, that's what I have learned here. So,
I think the important question which we will need to unlock as as I hear an answer from you is how do we really inspire people who have different cultural motivations, and even in decision making process there could be differences. So how you have managed it over the years?
I think one fundamentally important part is to, when you work in a multicultural environment, is to actually, everybody has to come out at a comfort level with each other. They have to, is number one. Number two is really understand, the common purpose. Okay. Otherwise, people are generally, not aligned with a purpose. So understand, I would say, spend a lot of time understand the why, from everybody else's point of view. So if it's a sales head who is from a different, background, etc., understand as to what is critical for him. What works for him. Why is he working here? Why is he, you, you, you know, left his country to what's the why for him, and similarly apply for the same applies to others as well. And the reason why this is more relevant for finance is because finance is a function that interfaces with all other functions. You know,
Hmm.
so which is why you have to understand the why part from different functional perspectives. Once you figure out that why, it is easier to understand that why, it is easy to then understand how to be the enabler, how to
Hmm.
support others here. So that's one. The second thing I think which is critical is listening. In my opinion,
Hmm.
ability to first listen, to understand, and
Hmm.
then try and add value. And I think this is a skill
Hmm.
set doesn't come naturally, at least didn't come naturally to me. you know
Hmm.
and I really, we were in the habit of interrupting people. We already high on
Hmm.
energy, we feel we are smart and we want to contribute.
Hmm.
Before hearing someone out, we start adding our own thoughts to it, to the discussion. And I think that's something that is very important, is a clear no. And I would suggest that sometimes it develops a negative bias against you. So even if you're saying the right thing, people will then not be fully aligned with you. You won't get the results that you want to achieve here. So if you're a good listener, understand the point, make a valid contribution after hearing someone out, and I think that makes a huge difference. It's a very simple thing to do, but I think it makes a huge uh, difference. I think the other piece I would probably bring in more from a functional aspect is to think on a win-win kind of a model, where
Hmm.
where you try and align the objectives that you want to achieve here. So think win-win, listen properly, and figure out the why and the drivers. And I think these are some critical, then you're setting yourself up for success.
I'll take you through a fun question now. Supposingly, you were a financial document.
Yeah, for me, I think I would be the balance sheet here, because the way I believe is that the balance sheet is the foundation. It's the less glamorous part of the financial
Hmm.
statement. It's the more boring part, but it's the foundation. You can't build a
Hmm.
superstructure which will survive earthquakes and tremors without a strong foundation, right? I mean, it'll crumble. And I think it's the foundation which is the hidden part in the entire
Hmm.
building, which actually
Hmm.
makes not only the building survives but it thrives. And I think the balance sheet is just that. Yeah, it has it. If you have a balance sheet which is strong, fundamentally sound, all the ratios are looking good. The schedules are all proper. There is no cobwebs and spiders and all years of neglect there. It's
Hmm.
clean, efficient. Ratios are great. The business will do well. So whether it is capital leverage ratios or whether it is your working capital efficiency, they're all hidden in the balance sheet, right? And
Hmm.
I think that's what I would try and sort of achieve.
Thank you so much. I would now like to call upon my beautiful co-host Tripti for the next set of questions.
I think
Thank
first
you.
of all, I would, Sanjay ji, like to read this quote for you because I was listening to you and I could correlate this so much with you. Life is not a ladder to climb, a puzzle to solve, a key to find, a destination to reach, a problem to fix. So I think when I was listening to you, I could correlate a lot with you because, like you were influenced by your elder brother, I was influenced by my sister. I was also a topper of my school, and I remember my father asked if we used to call our principal father because he used to be Christian, and he was saying nobody goes from science to commerce. People want to come from commerce to science, and you've topped your school and you want to go in 11th to back to commerce. So he was very shocked. So when I was listening to you, it was like my own stories getting repeated. So thank you so much for refreshing those memories.
Right.
I would like to, quickly go on a very important aspect. And you've been into hiring space from being a CFO. You know how things are right now as articleship becomes very important for employers. But what is your view? What is your thought on how relevant this articleship is, Sanjay ji, and why it is so relevant or not relevant? What has been your experience in this?
Yeah, so my own experience, if I look at as an article, clerk, I think it's been, I think it's a huge strength area for chartered accountants. This whole articleship. Yeah. I was an article clerk with, just about not even had finished my graduation, and I was sitting and doing an audit of a large company, and I had the finance controller of that company who was far more experienced and knowledgeable, but I was the auditor. It gave me the opportunity to ask, right, to question, and then get him to help and explain to me. So it's an experience which only chartered accountants who've been through a proper articleship will go through. I found it exhilarating. Here I am, no knowledge, not even passed my inter exam, first year of articleship, and I have the thrill of asking the finance controller to explain how this whole schedule works out here. And I think that's something, that's a knowledge that you gain over these 3 years by interacting with different sets of professionals. I think which no other course can really teach you. So the practical experience of going through business in some way and learning from the experience of others, I think it's really great. So I'm a great proponent of articleship, the ability to question, the ability to ask questions. If you don't understand, don't keep quiet, because ultimately you have to sign off, you have to explain to your seniors, managers. So you have to understand there is no way out. So this articleship teaches you all that. Yeah, and I'm a great fan of this. Yeah.
I think that you're right, because I think articleship is where I think Nidhi and I have done our articleship from SNB, and the foundation. I remember our senior not letting us touch the mouse, and that's the reason we are so great in Excel. I mean, the base which are found, and you are actually right that this is the kind of experience which you get only in this course. The kind of experience of asking, the intellectual capability of without even knowing the knowledge. So thank you so much for highlighting that aspect. Sanjay, how do you find this? When you compare a chartered accountant and MBA, what do you think these two courses, are lacking or can complement each other with? How do you think, as a chartered accountant, if you have to go for an MBA, you should, or you're not required? What are your views on this aspect?
Yeah, so I think between the two, if I see, the CA is of course it's got more depth in the subjects that it covers. Technically, so they're very strong. Uh, they have to dive deep into all these subjects. It's not just a case study driven, or they don't do many things, but they do few things, but they dive deep. Okay, so that's a plus there. However, I think what it doesn't help you is other soft skills, and I think that soft skill is all about, I think, storytelling as well. And I've seen this later on, is the art of storytelling. Numbers, how do you tell a story from the numbers? You have the numbers, but how do
Yes.
you tell that story? So there's an interesting experience that I went through with my own team. I was the CFO, and I had to, after every quarter, stand in front of the board, stand in front of investors, talk about the business, right, and even media. So I asked my team, in one such quarter, to shut their laptops and tell me how the performance was, what the story was, what are the numbers, what they are saying. And actually, there was a stunned silence in the room, and nobody could talk out of their head because they were so dependent on the Excel. And they said, "Okay, this is without the Excel. Like, what do I talk? What's the story?" And I think that's when we realized that we need to get this skill set in the team. So the art of storytelling, I think, doesn't come naturally to chartered accountants. We are great in numbers, we are great in putting together and analyzing, but the MBAs, I think they connect the dots, they tell a story very well. Even if they don't have in great depth knowledge about a subject, they have the attitude of zooming out, relating multiple concepts, and then trying to figure out an answer, right? So I think that's something that I would really encourage chartered accountants uh, to discover for themselves, and to take help if required. Yeah, because this is something that can.
One more aspect, somehow I've seen room full of chartered accountant, a room full of MBAs, one thing I found out, and I would love to hear from you. What are your views? Is the kind of collaboration MBAs do as compared to chartered accountant? What are your views on this? How do you think we can improve, or what is do you differ in this? Like, I've seen things, collaborations happening. They will talk about doing business together, they will talk about building things together, and a room full of chartered accountants, and what's coming out of that, how are they different? How can we bring a change in that thought process, or do you disagree on that front?
No, I understand completely, and I'm aligned to what you're saying. So I think the MBAs are largely also engineers who have become MBAs. Now, engineers as a process are what comes naturally to them, functionally, technically as well, is to deconstruct problems into smaller sets and then to solve them. That's what they've done. So give them outside, that's what they do in the maths and science. You deconstruct, apply concepts, and then try and get to a solution. And you can give them later on a problem which is completely unrelated to their knowledge space, and they will try and figure out the small data set constructs and try to piece them together and come to solutions. So you give them a problem on logistics industry, give them a problem in the environment industry. I mean, they're not going to get, saying, oh, I know nothing about it. Probably collaborate, as you say, get the data sets, analyze them, put the pieces together, connect the dots, and come to some sort of convergence and conclusion. That's the training that they've had. And I think from a chartered accountant perspective, it's largely been syllabus driven. This is in the syllabus, this is not in the syllabus. And I think the CA course is that way defines what you need to study. And I think that sometimes constricts our knowledge and our approach. We are conditioned to sort of think from that point of view. So I've had people telling me, do I have a JD for this role? See, the thinking already is that there are guardrails around the job that I have to do. It's not about I jump in, I'll understand, I'll figure out, I'll understand who my customer is, I'll understand the why, what I have to do, and I'll figure out my own JD for myself. No, that's not the approach. So give me something which I can then read and say I will deliver as per this. So I think it's the syllabus part which sort of drives us, and that mindset I think which drives us, and we have to come out of it.
We really have to come out of it, that it's not just the exam and the degree what matters. And like you've been emphasizing a lot, Sanjay J, is the why. I mean, being curious about things and going all in for it. So I really feel that for the audience who are listening, when you even going for audits and doing audit, it's not just about those financials. You need to understand the business aspect, and that's where your you're actually contributing somehow. Sanjay ji, we feel that today as a chartered accountant, we should not just go as auditor, we should also be helping decision making. And you've been doing such a wonderful job throughout your career, and now you're focusing and hiring, helping so many companies and hiring. I would like to really understand from you, with this change landscape in finance world, what are the kind of skills set which are required by the finance professionals? Are they different? Are they same standard job rules? Which you would like? Would you like to give more insight about it?
Yeah, skills. I spoke, three things which matter to me. I spoke about the three C's,
Yes.
and I think those are very relevant for any finance career. They certainly work for me a lot. Uh, I spoke about listening skills. I think storytelling is, I think, absolutely important. I think a few other things which I can sort of add on is, uh, you know, uh, uh, is preparation, for even things like, when you have to go for a meeting, many times which people don't actually read the agenda, they don't apply their minds to the subject matter, and they just sort of walk in and they're not able to make an effective contribution. People appear for an interview without any prep, right? And they say, okay, I've done things, I will speak off my mind. It doesn't work like that.
Yes.
You have to figure it out in your head as to what do I want to talk about, what is the purpose for which I'm going for this interview, understand the other side as well, and then you will be able to collate your thoughts and make it very effective. Ultimately it's those 30 minutes or 45 minutes that you have, and you have to talk about your entire career so far, yeah, you have to prep. So, and I've seen this aspect missing in a lot of people, and I've seen this in my professional life as well. People walking in and saying, okay, what is this meeting about? I said, if you've not even read about what this meeting is about, then how are you going to make it effective? You can't think on your feet all the time. So, and I think that's what, these are some of the skill sets that people really need to, think about as well. Yeah.
So I think Sanjay very very relevant because preparation is important, and now with technology, I think ChatGPT 40140, the new version, actually prepare you for interviews. So you can actually be prepared, reset yourself, and be prepared before you're coming and walking in the real environment. So nowadays, I think things have changed drastically. I have a follow up question, Sanjay, on this,
Yeah.
that with the the technology coming in, I think, and specifically in finance sector, like I was sharing with you, that we are working as an audit tech firm, and today if we hire as an employer in KGS, we normally looking for articles who are not just want to be chartered accountant but also want to go on tech side. So we have been training our articles on Pythons, and so they are able to code as well, and they are able to understand, because a lot of monotony was coming in the work we were doing as CAs. So it is important to get rid of them, because you also want to do quality work. Young generation now wants to do quality work and conclude it very fast. So what is your view, because you're into hiring, and how are you seeing the change in the ecosystem in terms of hiring with the technology coming in finance space? What is that is coming, and what's the knock on the door right now for CAs?
Yeah, I think the younger lot that I see are pretty much getting savvier on tech. You see them, saying that, okay, I worked on, they talk about it, saying that, look, these are the various ranges of ERP system that I've worked on. I've been part of the implementation. So process, I mean, even people who are working on data analytics, I know the tools that they are working on, and some of them have gone beyond that to actually, get into the actually learn the technology behind creating the analytics, rather than leave it to the IT person and saying, okay, I need this, can you help generate it? Some of them have gone there. I see a lot more interest in that area, because I think it's a differentiator. You know it makes them more efficient. It gives them, uses less of their time. Otherwise, it used to be pretty exacting on time, especially quarter ends and month ends. I mean, finance guys are very deep in, audits, etc. All these tools are there, enable us to do it faster, quicker, and release time. Okay. And today everybody is, I think, got multiple interests in outside of work as well. And I think if you are not tech savvy, I think you will struggle, certainly big time, because what you can do, PPT, for example, today PPTs used to take hours, and now you can do it
Yes.
faster.
So Sanjay, we were discussing about how relevant it is to really work on ourselves as we are growing. Just a degree or a 10 years of job role will not help. What are your views? What is so relevant to go to a next journey in our life?
Yeah, I think very valid point, and I think I'd mentioned earlier that, a career is our responsibility. We have to take ownership of our career, and one of the things that we have to continuously do is invest in ourselves, and that investment is by way of, I'm a strong advocate of taking external coaching and help. The first 10 years of your career is all about, I would say, the learning phase. You can go through different experiences, diversity of roles, but when you're preparing yourself for that CXO table, then you have to make sure that you have the requisite skill sets that are required to get you there. So, technically they may be sound, but the reality in terms of what the expectations are as you go up the pyramid are very different. And I think it's would be absolutely essential for somebody who has that aspiration to actually go through uh, coaching, on a formal basis. There are enough professional now coaches available, all ex-CFOs who are there, and there are some who are, coming from the HR fraternity. But certainly, great step to do in your career is to take that help, take that support, understand what the expectations are, and build a roadmap for yourself in terms of how you're going to get there. And it's not just about doing a job diligently and efficiently and getting bonuses. It's about preparing yourself for a very, very different journey. And I think that will come in through external help. And I know that, there's an example that I know, of Gaganjot Singh, who who I recruited, who was my subordinate in one of my stints that I did in Saint-Gobain. He joined as a finance controller, and today he is the president of a global business for a global region as well. And I asked him, Gagan, how did you make this transition? And he was very clear that, Sanjay, I wouldn't have done it if I had not taken professional help. Okay, because that helped me. The mindset shifts that happened beyond technical knowledge can only happen once you get external perspective, once you understand your blind spots, and then you know something which you didn't know before, and then you can cover those gaps, and that's how you prepare yourself. Yeah. So I think this is a very relevant, and my advice to people would be that, look, if you do take help, and I'm a strong advocate of this.
Sanjay, I have a follow up question now on if you go back and at your 15 years old, when you were 15 years old, what is one thing you would like to tell yourself, or would like what it would be? Would you like to change something, or would like to say something to your 15 years old?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wish I could go back as well and correct it. But one thing which I can obviously I tell youngsters as well is, I think uh, your job doesn't define you. Let the job not consume you completely. And I remember, I joined Hindustan Lever and I was like, this is my life and this is what I do for a living. So my identity was my job, right? And I think that's possibly, I would say, no, certainly not. Okay, job is just one of the things that you do. Okay, and I don't agree with those 84-hour work weeks. I certainly, demolish them straight away. I say that is not what life is about here. Okay, you are got to have multiple interests in your life, and ultimately, don't allow the job to consume you. So this is something that I would tell if I was much younger, because I think I've fallen prey to that, and I know I've always used to prioritize work before everything else, and I think I wouldn't do that now. I will certainly prioritize at sometimes, but I will make sure that there are other things which also get priority at different times. Yeah, so it's about maintaining that. And I think the other thing which I will probably tell myself is that there is nobody else who will take charge of your career. Okay, don't wait for any HR person or the HR head or the learning and development team, etc. Your career is in your hands, and I think you have to take ownership. You have to create your brand out of it. You have to understand what you stand for and how you want to progress it. That's my asset. It's like for me, it's my asset here. I can get value out of it. I can get multiples out of it if I invest in that asset. So take your career, take charge of it. Things won't happen on their own. Make them happen. Dive, think long term. For example, I've seen finance folks, and I've also sometimes been guilty of that early on. I don't think long term for my career. I think short term, one job to another job, right? One role to another role. But I don't have a long term vision. People prepare long term plans for businesses, 10-year plans, 5-year plans. Okay. But career,
But
nobody
not for
has,
themselves. Yeah.
not for themselves. And I think, no, have a long term plan, have a vision, have a goal, and how do you want to achieve it? Have a career roadmap, and I think it's critical for every person to do that for himself or herself.
I think I really want to take up that point before which you just shared. I think all of us, after becoming chartered accountant, working really hard, we take things so seriously in our jobs. I really appreciate your feedback on somehow we realize that we fail to even enjoy our life. We don't know how to enjoy our life, and we feel that work will make us enjoy our life. And I really want all the people listening to us today to please understand that, like I said when we just started, that your life is more than your job. And you have to think about, I mean, fitness, for example. Most of the started accountant will not go for a morning walk or go for, yeah, rigorous 1 hour exercising, which I think which is very very relevant to be at the end be healthy, which is key part of everyone's lifestyle in Western. living. So I think few things we can adapt really well with others, with other country. And with this, I would say, Sanjay, life for everyone has struggles. Everyone who's successful, everyone sees the success part, but everyone has to go through a lot of challenges. What keeps you motivated during those tough times? I'm sure you must have gone through a lot to be where you are. So it would be really good to hear what keeps you motivated.
Yeah, I've been through my challenges, and I mean, there was a time, there's this experience that I had early on in my career where I went on a holiday, and I felt that everybody, had was calling me up for something or the other. My suppliers were calling me, my factory management was calling me, my subordinate staff was calling me for something or the other. They needed my inputs, and and I felt that, look, uh, I'm indispensable. I'm so great. And then my uh, boss actually, when I came back, he said, "Look, that's not how you want to lead your life, right? And you things should function when you are not there. Things should function perfectly well, seamlessly when you're not there. That's the goal that you need to achieve. Yeah, not become indispensable. That's a weakness, and I think that's something that I then figured out, and I read this book called The 1 Minute Manager, and then I sort of realized that, look, that's a big mistake that I was making, and I corrected that, and so overcome that. I think the motivator for me is really another inspiration for me that I draw upon is another book that I read. It's a very thin book called Jonathan Livingstone Seagull by Richard Bach. It's a 100-page book. It's all about a seagull who, seagull has got big wings, powerful wings, but you see a lot of seagulls just at the shore catching fish, so in shallow waters, right? And this book is about saying that, do you want to be the seagull who has the wings, but you want to catch fish in shallow waters, or do you want to fly high and explore and soar the skies? So I think for me that thing is always in every role, and even now I try and sort of, when I'm an entrepreneur, I try and look at and saying, what do I really want to do? What's my big purpose? What do I want to achieve? Do I want to soar the skies? What's it for to fly high? What would be that mean? And what would we mean to really catch the available fish, which is so easy, low hanging fruits? Yeah. So I think makes you strive harder, makes you push yourself more in a constructive way, in a positive way. You don't have to break your back, but really to have a higher ambition, and you say that maybe you're meant to drive yourself to do to bigger things and to have a larger ambition and a goal. Yeah, so that's what sort of keeps me going. Yeah, every
Yeah,
now and a while I read this book. So
that's very, very interesting, actually. I was about to ask you a movie or a book, and I could really find this very interesting. I'm sure Nidhi and I will go back and read the 1 minute uh, book which you were talking about. We'll take definitely go through it. I have my last question now, Sanjay, with you. Every person who has been successful, there have been different role models, people who we idolize and we have not met, but there are people who are just next to us always, and supporting us. Sometimes we realize it, sometimes we don't. And I think mentors play a very important role. Sometimes they can solve your problem in 30 seconds when the problem seems to be of many years. So I would love to hear from you, Sanjay, if few people have played important role in your life, and if you would like to name them.
yeah, so in my case, I would say two books, right, and then of course people. So for me, the driving forces was one of the books which I read very early on a career, which I was very young, was this Seven Habits of Successful People, and I'm talking of 1990 here. So and that really sort of set the tone for me, gave me a visibility to self improvement, which has stayed over the years, and I still feel it as relevant as it was 3 decades ago. So Stephen Covey's book there. Then I spoke about Jonathan, which I chanced upon, and someone referred it, and I said, "Wow, this really inspires you to, whichever stint I am, whichever role I am, it it makes you think differently, about yourself." And I feel that. Then, of course, the people, who I've worked with. One is, of course, Venkat Subramaniam, who has been my boss twice. He is first in HUL, and uh, he was a factory manager, and he uh, gave me a lot of insights, and of course has been a mentor as well, on their aspects in career and outside of career as well. And then I worked again with him outside of HUL, where again, by a strange coincidence, I think he, uh, became my boss again. There was an acquisition, and he, we worked together. So certainly for him, then one of my subordinates, I think Gaganjot Singh, who I hired in my one of my roles in Saint-Gobain, and as a finance controller, and Gagan Jot, and then later on, of course, he's moved on to become a business leader. He is the president and CEO of the Michelin business in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. So he's gone from being a finance person to a CEO, and I think every interaction with him is always helpful. It works both ways, I feel. So really learned a lot from him, and of course Aarti, my wife, over the years, I think 3 decades of our partnership was also been a great enabler to whatever challenges that one has faced, yeah, over life, yeah. So I think these are some of the, I think, contributors to my success. Yeah.
I would actually call out on these three amazing people who have actually contributed, and because of which, Sanjay ji, we are talking to you today. We have you, and you're inspiring so many hearts today. So I would love to call out Venkat ji, who has been your career guidance, the guidance which is given your, Gagan Jot Singh ji. So thank you so much, and of course your wife Aarti for being such an instrumental part of your life, and because of which, Sanjay, today we have such an inspirational story to share with everyone, with our audience. So with this, I would like to bring this discussion to a beautiful end. But dear all, we will be coming up with our next episode soon with more inspirational and amazing beyond numbers and stories beyond numbers. So I think with this, thank you so much everyone. Hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you, Tripti.